What's up everybody, Sam here. Yeah, I realize this is a bit of a change of scenery. I just spontaneously mix up the orientation of my room every couple months, basically just because I feel like it. But I do think it being set up like this is going to help YouTube videos look a little bit better. And at this point, I'm doing every little thing I can to improve my videos because I want the last 25 episodes of Life in Germany to be the best 25 episodes of Life in Germany. Now, I've been a little bit under the weather, but it doesn't matter. The show must go on. So that being said, today you will get an inside look at Life in Germany. Now, the funny thing is, I don't think this is something anyone has ever requested on YouTube before for me to do. But our guest that we had over, that you probably saw in the last episode of Life in Germany, suggested that I do this, and I thought it was a great idea. And it was something that would make episode 75 just a little extra special. So let's jump right in. At the heart of production here at Sam Walton Man Studios is my camera, the Canon 70D. I would say that right now it is arguably the best Why is it getting so bright out? Ugh. Yeah, the 70D is arguably right now the best DSLR there is for vlogging like this, because not only does it have a flip out screen, but it has a flip out touch screen. And it has this wacky, fancy, schmancy dual pixel autofocus technology, which gives it features like being able to detect faces and stay focused on them, which obviously for someone like me and other vloggers is really handy. And if you don't want the camera to focus on what it thinks it should be focusing on, you can just use live view and tap on whatever on the screen, it'll focus on it, and it'll actually try to track it too. So long story short, it's basically a camera with built-in follow focus, which is huge. And that's a feature that's pretty common in camcorders and on cell phones, but it's not seen in DSLRs, and I'm pretty sure the 70D was the first one to really pioneer that. I've had that camera for coming up on a year now. It's kind of hard to believe that. Now, what I have been asked a number of times is to show what settings I use on my camera, so I'll just run through those real quick. I shoot at full HD, obviously, 24 frames per second, IPB, which is high compression. All I takes up an insane amount of space, and the freedom that it offers in post really isn't worth it to me. I keep the camera in manual mode when I'm vlogging all the time. Per normal DSLR videography rules, I set my shutter speed to twice the frame rate, so in my case that's 1/50th of a second. Then I just set my aperture to something that seems to fit the situation. Normally that means trying to keep the aperture as open as possible, like when I'm sitting here in my room, I keep it's at f4 right now, which is as open as it'll go. When I'm outside, it's usually around f8 to f13 depending on the day, and when it's really bright though, I have to crank it up to like f18. Like for the My Now video, for example, I'm pretty sure I was around f18 or 20 the entire day, because it was bright. There was not a cloud in the sky. Then I set my ISO to auto. If I'm in my room like this, I try to set it on something and leave it there, because a lot of times it ends up like this on days when I try to vlog inside and the light's changing all the time and I don't want it to be going all over the place, and usually underexposes anyway. So I set it on something in my room, but when I'm out and about, I put it on auto. At 1080p on a DSLR, ISO can crank itself up really high before you start noticing any noise. Now, if I'm going into a dramatically different lighting situation, I will change my settings to accommodate that. But for the most part, I'll just leave it on auto ISO because I don't want to be having to change it all the time, and it can handle itself pretty well. White balance is pretty straightforward. I just use daylight 95% of the time. Now, in camera, I turn down contrast all the way so I can get the most dynamic range out of my image as possible. Dynamic range equals good. It makes your footage look quite a bit more professional, and if I need to add a little more contrast in post, that's easy. But if there's too much, you can't really undo that. I also turn down the in-camera saturation as much as possible so that I have more flexibility with color in post. Speaking of which, I also have the color tone slider tweaked slightly, which gets rid of some of the uglier greens for some more favorable magentas. Now, I also have sharpness turned all the way off, and it does not make my footage look muddled like you might think. It just helps my footage shy away from looking like camcorder footage, and therefore looks more professional. So yeah, I leave sharpness all the way down, maybe one notch up from the bottom, and I think that's it's one very minor change that makes a big difference. The only lens I typically use on my camera is the kit 18-55 that came with it. If I could go back and choose a different lens to use for my videos, I would probably get the Tamron makes a 17-50mm f2.8, and that would obviously get me way more pretty bokeh than my current lens. So that being said, if you're looking at buying a DSLR, I suggest that you consider buying the body only and then buy this lens or something else like it. Because the kit lens is fine. It works great, but it could be better. I have an off-brand battery grip on the bottom of my camera. It's like 1/5 the price of Canon's, and it works just fine. I also have a hand strap that I got from Peak Design, which has worked wonders. I don't know how many times it's saved my camera from smash destruction. It usually connects to the bottom of the camera, but it's on the tripod right now, so I have to disconnect it. Yeah, that thing's really nice because you can reach your hand in through both sides. So, you know, if I'm vlogging like this, it's cool, I'm putting my camera around, but if I'm pointing the camera at myself, I can just reach my hand in through the other side. Not a lot of hand straps for cameras are like that, but that one is, and it's been great. I love it. And then there's my tripod, which is the same one I broke in Paris over a year ago, but hey, it still gets the job done, so who cares? So as far as audio goes, out and about, I just have this El Cheapo shotgun mic. I think it literally cost about 20 bucks, maybe 25. I thought about upgrading, but I think to get much better audio, I'd have to spend much more money, and I'm just not sure if it's worth it to me right now. Because it sounds okay, and like I said, I think I would have to shell out tons of dough to get much better. Inside, as you've seen many times, I use the Blue Yeti. It's right here, cleverly and professionally finagled on a guitar stand, because that's how professional I am. And I just position it here right outside the frame. Now, if you've watched a single one of my videos, then at some point or other you probably saw the Antelope audio splash screen at the end after everything. That's because they funded my purchase of this microphone, and I love them forever for it because it's been great. Antelope Audio specializes in, believe it or not, top-of-the-line audio equipment, particularly clocking and analog to digital, digital to analog conversion. I'll post a link to their website below, as well as to their YouTube channel, where you can watch videos of like live sessions that were recorded entirely with this new portable thing they have. It's pretty cool. As well as video interviews with bands and audio engineers who use their stuff. Because everyone who uses their stuff loves their stuff, and no, they're not paying me to say that. I'm just a little bit excited because their stuff is behind a lot of today's music, and not very many people realize that. So yeah, it's a USB mic. I run it into my computer via this wire with extension wire that goes back here, which leads me to software. I use Final Cut for video, Logic for audio, and whenever I record my screen, which hasn't happened very often, but it happens sometimes, I use ScreenFlick, which I prefer over the more popular ScreenFlow. I think it's more expensive too. I mean, ScreenFlow is more expensive, ScreenFlick is less expensive, which is why it's cool. And I think it works better. So that being said, let's move to the editing process. And it's pretty straightforward, really. I mean, if I shot the episode here in my room, then first I have to take the audio from the microphone and line it up with the video and merge it into a compound clip. But if I was out and about, I just import the footage and get cutting. And that's what I do. I just drag them in one by one, cut them down as I see fit. That can take quite a while depending on the video. And then I add the intro and the end slate. Now, speaking of the intro. My first intro was made with this dumb online website I found where you just punch in a couple lines of text and then it spits out a download link for your intro. So I got this corny looking lasery thing because I love lasers. The second intro, I just use a template I found inside iMovie. I'm sure you can find it too. It's there. The third intro though, I made using Blender. If you haven't heard of Blender, it's a free 3D animation rendering program thing. It has the steepest learning curve ever, and I had never really touched it before. So for me, making my 10-second intro, I think it took me 30 hours, and I followed a tutorial, okay? Yeah, that was interesting. It was good though, it was a good experience. I haven't touched Blender since then though. And then my fourth intro, unless I skipped one, I hope I didn't skip one. My most recent intro, anyway. And I'm sticking with it, I'm not changing my intro again. Yeah, I bought a plugin for Final Cut that had a lot of various elements that I've used some of in my videos, but I got it primarily for the Globe, which I then customized to my own needs. And yeah, that's my intro now, and I think it really fits. I think it's the best one yet. My end slate is just a Photoshop document. I just go in and add the titles of my 3 most recent videos, and then I download those videos from YouTube because I don't actually save them to my computer. I've also got a pre-made moving background for the end slate inside Final Cut, so I just combine all the elements and voila! Then I add music. I actually have over 1,000 royalty-free tracks that I downloaded from YouTube's resource library, and I have them all starred within iTunes on a scale of 1 to 5 stars for how much I like them or how frequently I use them, so they're easy to find. So I add music, any transitions or captions or other stuff I might want. Sometimes I hit the audio with a little bit of compression. I add the Antelope audio splash screen at the end, maybe do some color correction, and that's pretty much it. From there, I just export and upload, and that's it. I'm not sure what else I can say. Okay, I will say this. All this equipment that I have and the software I use and the editing knowledge and speed that I've racked up, I didn't get it overnight. When I started out, I had a sub $100 point and shoot camera with no flippy screen or anything and free editing software. That was it. Okay, and a beat up tripod that has been in our family for like a decade, and I think we finally got rid of it, which is good because it had descended deep into the depths of crapdom. Anyway, my point is this: I did not get to where I am today in any short period of time. When I first started making YouTube videos over 4 years ago now, I shot them on tape. I bet there are people watching this who don't know what that means. I had to work my way up, and I'm still working my way up because there's always room for improvement. Like if I could buy studio lighting and an even nicer camera and audio setup, I would. But what always needs improvement more than anything technical is me. And likewise, the one thing that has resulted in the most benefit to my videos over the years has been me. And I know that sounds stuck up, but it's not. It's true of every YouTuber, okay? Go back and watch the earliest episodes of Life in Germany if you haven't, and you will understand. I was so awkward, and I think it was primarily because I was trying so hard not to be awkward. And then over time, I wouldn't say I got less awkward. Well, I did get less awkward, but it was only by coming to terms with my awkwardness. Me and my awkwardness just kind of met in the middle. We hang out now. I hope that makes at least a little bit of sense. I guess, in conclusion, all I'm really trying to say is, started from the bottom, now we're here. Alright guys, well that's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you gained a little perspective into what goes into these videos. But don't you derps forget that none of this would exist if it weren't for you guys. So, again, I really appreciate you. Thank you for watching. I hope you continue to enjoy the series, and I will do my best to keep you entertained. Sam out.